Number 13. Regrowing Lost Limbs / True Human Limb Regeneration. A breakthrough that could change an ordinary human life into an extraordinary life. And how close are we to having it? Imagine losing a finger, a hand, or even an entire leg. Today, medicine can save the wound, reconstruct damaged tissue, transplant certain body parts, or fit an increasingly sophisticated prosthetic. Breakthrough number 13 would do something fundamentally different. Your body would grow the missing part back. Not an artificial replacement, not a mechanical limb. Your own living bone, your own muscles, your own nerves, your own skin, your own blood vessels, your own sensation. A biologically regenerated limb. The breakthrough. The treatment would temporarily switch the injured human body from scar-forming mode into regeneration mode. Animals such as axolotl salamanders can do this naturally. After losing a limb, cells near the injury form a temporary regenerative structure called a blastema. Those cells then rebuild the missing anatomy in the correct arrangement. Humans normally respond differently. Serious injuries are rapidly sealed with scar tissue, a very effective survival mechanism, but one that largely shuts down large-scale regeneration. The breakthrough would be learning how to tell human cells, don't just close the wound, rebuild what was lost. And remarkably, evidence increasingly suggests that at least some of the biological machinery required for regeneration may still exist inside mammals. What would have to regrow? An entire arm or leg is vastly more difficult than simply growing new skin or bone. The body would have to reconstruct in the right places. Bone, cartilage, joints, muscle, tendons, ligaments, arteries and veins, lymphatic vessels, peripheral nerves, sensory receptors, skin, hair follicles, fingernails or toenails. Then nerves growing from the original limb would have to reconnect with the new tissue so the brain could eventually feel and control the regenerated limb. And perhaps most importantly, the biological program would have to know when to stop. A regenerated hand couldn't simply keep growing. It would need a positional map telling every cell, you are rebuilding a finger. This is where the joint belongs. This is how long the bone should become. Stop here. That patterning problem is one of the great challenges of regenerative biology. Something important just happened. In April 2026, researchers reported a striking experiment in Nature Communications. They amputated mouse digits at a location that ordinarily heals through fibrosis rather than regeneration. Researchers then gave the wound two signals sequentially, FGF2 to BMP2. The first treatment encouraged wound cells to form a blastema-like structure. The second encouraged those cells to differentiate. The result was regeneration of multiple skeletal structures associated with the missing portion of the digit, including bone and joint-associated tissues, although the regenerated structures were still imperfect. The researchers concluded that cells present inside a normally non-regenerating mammalian wound could be redirected toward a regenerative response. That distinction is enormous. They didn't have to manufacture an entire replacement digit somewhere else. They persuaded cells already at the injury site to begin behaving differently. And there is another clue. Another 2026 study examined why some mammalian digit injuries regenerate while others scar. Researchers found that the physical environment surrounding the cells matters enormously. Regenerative areas were relatively soft and rich in hyaluronic acid, while non-regenerative areas were stiffer and contained more organized collagen. Manipulating that extracellular environment improved regenerative responses in mouse digits. That suggests regeneration may require more than simply finding the right stem cell. Scientists may need to reconstruct the entire regenerative environment around the wound. And this is no longer purely academic. DARPA is pursuing a program aimed at developing an on-demand regenerative platform for complete biological finger restoration after traumatic injury. The concept combines scaffolds with biological signals intended to restore integrated tissues, including bone, cartilage, ligaments, tendons, and blood vessels. DARPA describes finger regeneration as a potential proof of concept for rebuilding increasingly complex biological structures. That does not mean scientists can currently regrow a human finger. They cannot. But the fact that complete biological finger restoration is now an explicit engineering objective shows how far the field's ambitions have moved. How might the first human version work? A future treatment could resemble a temporary regeneration chamber placed around an amputation. Inside it, doctors might control growth factors, electrical signals, oxygen, immune activity, extracellular matrix chemistry, gene activation, mechanical forces, and possibly implanted scaffolds. Instead of performing one enormous operation, medicine might supervise a biological construction project lasting weeks or months. First blood vessels, then bone and connective tissue, then muscles, then nerves, then skin. Meanwhile, imaging and AI could continually compare the growing structure against the patient's anatomy and prevent abnormal development. Essentially, medicine would provide the instructions while the body supplied the construction workers. How close are we? Scar-free and improved tissue regeneration. Possibly 2030s. This is the nearest step. Therapies that manipulate wound environments or regenerative signaling could improve healing and reduce fibrosis well before entire limbs can be regrown. Regenerating meaningful portions of fingers or damaged joints, possibly 2030s to 2040s. The 2026 mousework and programs targeting biological finger restoration make this substantially more plausible than whole limb regeneration. Growing a complete functional human finger, potentially 2030s to 2040s, but highly uncertain. This would be a landmark achievement because a finger requires coordinated bone, joints, tendon, circulation, nerves, skin, and precise anatomical patterning. Regenerating hands, feet, or substantial limb segments, possibly 2040s to 2060s or later. Complexity rises dramatically with size. Regrowing an entire human arm or leg mid-century or beyond, and still deeply uncertain. There is no established scientific timetable for this. Whole limb regeneration requires solving biological problems that researchers have not yet solved even in large mammals. So I would not call human limb regeneration close. But I would no longer call it biologically absurd either. The important shift is that researchers are beginning to demonstrate that mammalian healing can, under particular conditions, be pushed away from simple scarring and toward genuine regeneration. What would this change? Consider the consequences. A child who loses a hand in an accident might eventually grow another one. A soldier who loses a leg might someday leave treatment with his own biological leg rather than a prosthetic. Industrial accidents would no longer necessarily create lifelong disability. Certain devastating injuries could become temporary conditions. Prosthetic technology would remain enormously important, but its role could eventually shift from permanent replacement toward temporary support while biological regeneration occurs. Reconstructive surgery could change completely. Some joint replacements could disappear. Rehabilitation medicine could become regeneration medicine. And millions of people living with amputations worldwide could someday face an entirely different future. Secondary effects. Once scientists learn how to regenerate limbs, they may discover that the same biological principles apply elsewhere. That could accelerate spinal repair, nerve regeneration, heart muscle repair, jaw reconstruction, organ regeneration, scar reversal, and severe trauma recovery. Because the deeper discovery wouldn't merely be how to grow an arm. It would be how to convince mature human tissue to safely restart developmental programs that the body normally uses only before birth. That knowledge could spread across medicine. And beyond, this is where number 13 becomes much larger than amputation. If biology becomes capable of reconstructing complex structures from positional instructions, scientists may eventually learn how to repair structures before they are completely lost. An arthritic joint might rebuild itself. A damaged spinal segment might reconstruct damaged tissue. Severely burned skin might regenerate without scars. A crushed hand might biologically restore its original architecture, rather than merely being surgically repaired. Medicine would begin moving away from repairing damaged bodies toward restoring original biological design. And much farther in the future, regeneration might even be combined with breakthroughs in aging. Instead of replacing an old knee with metal and plastic, grow a new biological knee. Instead of permanently losing tissue after trauma, restore it. Instead of accepting certain physical losses as irreversible, Make irreversible damage reversible. That is the real promise of breakthrough number 13. Regrowing lost limbs. For most of human history, losing part of the body has meant losing it forever. We are nowhere near changing that for an entire human arm or leg yet. But in 2026, scientists are beginning to uncover something extraordinary. The mammalian body may not have completely forgotten how to regenerate. The instructions may still be there. The breakthrough will be learning how to turn them back on.